Aloha, Richard Halverson. This is ITS387P, and today is February 10th, and we're on like the fourth video, I guess, of this class. Let me share my screen. And let's see. So we are right in here. Now, I was going to cover chapter 4 today, but when I looked at how everybody was doing, I noticed that it's like everybody's almost already all done with chapter 4. So there's not much sense, and that's understandable because you sort of had it in 227. So I was kind of looking forward to going over chapter 4 because it's kind of a review for me. I get kind of some of the stuff mixed up, like the selectors, you know, when you put the dot and when you put the hashtag and so on, but that's okay. I know where all this information is. So I think today I'm just going to start with chapter 5. So now we're getting into programming and JavaScript, and you might not have, a lot of you are coming along. Looks like a third of you or so. So why don't I just get started? And this is a 2-week. This is a 2-week chapter. So I'll probably try to get up to chapter 5, maybe up to arrays or something, and then save the rest of it maybe for next week. So JavaScript, you're all pretty familiar with JavaScript if you've had 227. It's another programming language. Doesn't really have anything to do with Java, with the programming language Java, although it's probably closer to Java than it would be to some language like Python. But there's a lot of languages that have similar syntax as JavaScript. JavaScript was actually invented back in the 1990s when Netscape Navigator was the first real browser, and they wanted to have a programming language in the browser so it could dynamically check, and respond to user events. And back then, even things like input validation was done on the server. I mean, the browser, just like for a form, a browser just collected the input from the user and didn't do any checking at all. The user hit the submit button and went back to the server, and the server did everything. And so it's not the server would respond with, you forgot to fill this field in or something like that. Since then, but once JavaScript started, we all kind of see that, that more and more stuff was going to move into the browser. So we're going to offload work from the server to the browser, and that's better because, then the work is performed by the machine of the user, that the only user that's interested in the result of that work. And you're not sharing the server, which is a scarce resource, with all the other programs and users that are using the server. So they came up with a standard. I'm not even sure what ECMA stands for. It's simply interesting. ECMA script, ECMA International. It's a standardization organization. European Computer Manufacturers Association. And so they came out with the standard, and then JavaScript is actually an implementation of that standard. And so now I guess we're up to ECMA script version 11, okay, or ECMA script 2020. And today, JavaScript is a very popular programming language. You know, all the web browsers can execute it, and applications like Gmail and Google Maps would not be possible. In fact, Google was one of the big, I mean, you know, when Google decided around the middle of the 2004, 2005, when it was going to start making Gmail, you know, when they first started, I was going, you know, how can this be possible? I mean, JavaScript was just a toy language back then. And I think they really took the lead. And so now it's really robust. And so now we're able to do things like have Gmail, and it's all, you know, all your mail is on some server someplace, but, you know, it's highly interactive. So JavaScript is executed by an interpreter, of course, at you know, one statement at a time. Modern JavaScript interpreters are called JavaScript engines, or just-in-time compilation is another term for it. So nice participation activity here. I already did it. ECA is not quite the same thing. ECMA script is the definition, and JavaScript is the implementation. And JavaScript is only for programs that run on the web server. Well, that's not true anymore. There's this Node.js, which runs on the server. And so it's possible to have a JavaScript running on the browser, JavaScript running on the server. And of course, they had to add some stuff for JavaScript on the server, like saving files and so on. JavaScript, there's no real concept of a file because it's all like inside the browser. And we may get into doing a little bit of Node.js. In fact, I think we probably will. The last time I taught this course, I had some stuff on Node.js. It involves installing some stuff on your computer and so on, but we'll see how it goes at the end of the semester, towards the end of the semester. All right, there's variables, of course, in JavaScript, and it's kind of, when you want to declare a variable, you know, some languages use the word var. JavaScript uses let. Okay, let some variable equals something. So let num albums equal 20. Let was, you know, the first language I learned was BASIC, and BASIC had let. He started these sentences with let. So that's kind of a real throwback. You don't need the word though. You know, you can just do this. This is fine. So this declares a variable. What's the? I'm trying to think of what the language declare variable using var. Oh, var. Okay. What's the difference between var and let? JavaScript. Difference between var and let. Scoping. Var is a function scoped, and let is block scoped. Oh, that's interesting. Let allows you to declare variables that are limited in scope inside of a block. Okay, so like if you have an if statement, you know, if and then a block, you can declare a variable inside there. It looks like that's what let allows you to declare variables of a more limited scope. All right, so anyway, that's okay. All right, so that's that. A variable, a name created for a name created for an item like a variable is called an identifier. Okay, same terminology. Identifiers are a little bit more things can be identifiers in JavaScript than can be in Python or PHP for that matter. excuse me, a variable can be any combination of characters, letters, underscores, or dollar signs. Okay. A variable may not start with a digit. That's like any other language, but they can start with anything else. An identifier may not be a reserved word like let or function or while or for or var or anything else. JavaScript coding convention is to name JavaScript variables using camel casing, where the identifier starts with a lowercase letter and then subsequent words begin with a capital letter. Or when I learned this, we called it bumpy caps. So anyway, this is, they like this more than they like this. I don't know why. Or this. Well, okay, that's all convention. It's all convention, and it's just this book. Okay. In fact, it's just the author of the author of this chapter, probably, okay, or whatever. But anyway, you can use whatever convention you want. Okay. It's nice if it's consistent, but you may decide to use this for some sorts of things, and you may decide to use this notation for some other sorts of things. Like maybe this is an internally declared variable that's just going to be, whereas this might be something that is read off. It's read data that's read in from a disk or taken from a file, and then it's just stored and so on. So there's all kinds of reasons that you can have yourself. There's a whole set of conventions. C# in Visual Studio C#. You use this for a local variable. You use this for another kind of variable, and so on. So that's completely up to you. Constants are variables that cannot change, so you can use the constant keyword. Declare a constant called slices per pizza as 8, and so then later on in your program you cannot assign this a different value. A variable may also be declared with the var keyword. Okay, so naming variables declares, which statement declares a variable sum without assigning a value to sum? That'd be this one. This is not declaring a variable. This is not anything. This is declaring a variable, but it's assigning a value. So it's this one. Which identifier is illegally named? Well, it's this one because it starts with a letter. It starts with a number. This is a perfectly valid. This variable here would only be valid. The only language I know, other language that this would be valid in would be PHP. In PHP, all variables begin with a dollar sign. All variables do. So that's kind of interesting. So some of the things I've done in my programming days, back when I had my business and all I did was my business, there were a lot of websites that were developed in the late 1990s, early 2000s, where somebody like me or someone wants to get skilled at developing database-driven websites, and so they go out and they bid on a job real cheap. They get it, they do a good job and everything, developed it real cheap, and then they go off, and a company is left there with this nice website that works great, but then as time goes on, it starts to deteriorate because standards change, and HTML becomes more strict and JavaScript becomes more strict and so on. And so then what they can do is they can hire a company like what my business was, where we would go in and there would be some database website, running on using some old language like Microsoft, like ASP or some Active Server Pages or something. And then I go in and we take the code, we take the ASP code, and we just convert pretty much line by line, convert from ASP language to some other language like PHP. And if you're smart about it, you try to change as little as possible. You try to use as much of the old code as you possibly can for lots of different reasons. One nice reason is documentation. One nice reason is that it's easier to follow. It's easier for somebody else to follow, and so on. So, the reason I brought that up is because if I were to convert some PHP in the JavaScript, you know, I might just leave all these dollar signs there. I mean, that sort of tells a story, you know. Anyway, all right. So here are some different data types, and you recognize the type. The names are a little different, or they're the same. Strings are called strings in Python, strings in JavaScript, strings in PHP, strings in C#. A number, that's kind of an interesting one. That's a number. That's a value. You know, number. You can do, you know, addition and subtraction, multiplication on numbers, and it doesn't matter if it's got a decimal point or not. Okay, so they don't really distinguish so much between integers and floating point numbers. There's a Boolean, of course, true or false. Array. Okay, in Python, this is called a list. It's exactly a list. Okay, in every other language, though, it's called an array. And then an object in Python, we call it an object. In Python, we call it a dictionary. JavaScript, I can't remember, but we got, no, this is JavaScript. PHP. Yeah, we have these in PHP too. I can't quite remember what the term is. And then variables can be undefined, just like in any other language. And then null is different. Null is intentionally absent of an object value. It's like stay tuned or something's coming. All right. So what's the data type of Z? Well, it's not defined. It's undefined. So it's going to be undefined. What is the data type of X? Y is false. X is Y. So X must be Boolean. And what is syntactically wrong with the following code? Well, what is syntactically wrong is they're using, this is a weird place for this kind of question. They're using it, this is a string. The intent is this is a string, but you see it's using single quotes to delimit the string, but there happens to be a single quote inside, which is just a character of the string, which is not legal. So you have to do something, and I'm not sure what it is in JavaScript, but it could be a backslash in front of the single quote, or it could be the does it say here? I bet if I were to have read this chapter, I know the answer. Or you simply use something else like a double quote. Variables may not be assigned strings to them. That's not true. No, it's this one. Single quotes. Yeah, if single quotes are used as string delimiters, then a single quotation mark inside of the string must be escaped with a backslash. So you got to put that backslash there in front of it, and then it's okay to put it there. Or you can use double quotes. Okay, comments. A double slash precedes a single line comment, or if you want a multi-line comment, you enclose it in the top, it's a slash asterisk, and you end the comment with an asterisk slash. And that's like Java. It's like C#. Another interesting thing in this language is that semicolons are optional if you have statements one line, you know, if a statement is on one line. So a return is almost like a semicolon. A semicolon terminates a statement, and in almost every language, a semicolon terminates a statement. Python, it's not true. Python, it's a new line that terminates a statement. And so, but in JavaScript, it's optional unless you want to put more than one statement on a line like this. Here you got two statements on the same line, and so you separate the statements with a semicolon. So So is a semicolon a separator or is it a terminator? Well, you know, you can just use it as a separator because it doesn't look like you need to terminate anything. If you know, you just put a carriage return there and that'll terminate it. In that was a question though in the older days. In the olden days, Pascal was a language that had we use semicolons, and semicolons were not terminators; they're separators. So it was illegal to so it was wrong to put a semicolon at the end of the statement. You know, I mean, at the very end of a block, the last statement of the block, you did not put a semicolon there because you weren't separating it from anything. So anyway, so you can go through these. This is obviously wrong because this is the beginning of a comment. This has to be, there's got to be an ending comment, an asterisk slash to end the comment. So this is an error. Got to have an ending one. This is not right, of course. This is should be okay. Is this okay? Yeah. Okay. Input and output, kind of primitive, at least in the beginning here. You have a prompt is a function which it pops up a dialog box. If there's something inside the if you pass it an argument, then you are then that's what's going to be displayed. It's kind of like the input statement in Python. You know, input parentheses, you put a prompt inside there. In this JavaScript, it's the word prompt, and then to output, you can output to the console log. You know, that's like you know, this thing here. This is the console. So anyway, we'll use that later. And so write the code to prompt the user with a question variable and receive and retrieve the user's age. So what do you do? Prompt question. Is this what I'm asking? Is this what it's supposed to be? Yeah. All right. Okay. Another participation activity. Did I do this one already? Okay, I'm supposed to all right, I guess I'm just supposed to put something in here like TV show equals prompt, enter a TV show, something like that or something. And then it's, oh, it's supposed to enter TV show. Schitt's Creek. And so yeah. Okay. Write a statement that displays this is awesome. What? Write a statement that displays this is awesome. A statement. Oh, start. Write a statement that displays this is awesome. This. Copy, paste. This is awesome. Copy, paste, exclamation point. Write a statement that displays the variable as there are 10 dogs. Yeah. console log, is that right? There are plus 10, plus num dogs. Okay, anyway, that looks pretty easy. What's next? Arithmetic. Okay, so we got the same kind of operators. This is exactly the same as Python. Same stuff. Okay, so what is points at the end of each code segment? What is points? Okay, well here we're supposed to remember about operator precedence. Operator precedence. So in this case, it's going to multiply 5 times 2 equals 10, and then add 3 to it, and you get 13. So this one's going to be 13. See? Okay, this one, first it's going to add 3 to 4 to get 7, and then it's going to take mod 5. So the answer would be 2, right? 2, yeah. In this case, 3 to the second power has got precedence, and then it's going to multiply that by scale. So 3 squared is 3 times 3 is 9, times 5 is 45. Yes, 45. Okay, this is just going to subtract 2 from points. Is there this in Python? Is it double? Double increment, is there plus in Python? Python does not have operators, plus or minus. Okay. Why is there no plus in Python? Integers are immutable. They are? Because they can't be muted. Means you have to create a new object. So that's why. Okay, I guess that kind of makes sense. Weird language. Okay, so we don't have this in Python. Now, this is, so all this does is this just singularly increments the variable. It's just sitting there, and you use the variable for whatever it's. The variable is in an expression. You use the variable for its value, and then after that expression is done being evaluated, and you're all done with the variable, then this plus takes a hold and increments it by 1. Same with this. So if we have here, okay, here, this first it prints it out, then it subtracts 1 from it. So I suppose we're supposed to say what points is after this is done. So I guess it's 9. Is that what they want us to say? 9, yeah. Here it's going to be 7. Okay, but now can you prefix it? Okay, so this is plus minus afterwards. Okay, can you prefix plus in JavaScript? They're both prefix and postfix. Okay, that means that if they're both prefix and postfix, then that means you could do, well, here it doesn't matter because here you just want to know the value of it. But remember I said if you have an expression, let's say you have an expression that's got a variable in it like points, and points is on the right side. It's on the right side of an assignment statement, so it's part of an expression. And then the expression is evaluated. Then when it's all done, the minus happens, and the points variable is decremented by 1. If the minus minus were in the beginning, the minus minus were before the variable name, then the minus minus happens before the evaluation of the expression. That's all. It's useful sometimes. Okay, and then we have this compound assignment operators, which we have in all languages that I know of, where here you got, this is the same as x equals x plus 2, x equals x minus 2. You can just write it this way. You see that? This x equals x times 3 can be written this way. Excuse me, and so on. What compound assignment operator makes points become 2.5? Okay, so that would be divided by equals. Do I do the, oh, it's got to be an integer divide. Oh, really? No, it's not an integer divide, it's a regular divide. Okay, so let's try, I think it's like this. I think that's right. Yeah, okay. Okay, this is going to take points equals points times 3 plus 1. So it's going to do the multiplication first. So it's going to be 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7. Oh. Okay, I was wrong. It's going to do the 3 plus 1 first. Oh, I didn't look at that. It's going to do this. It's going to be like this. Well, I didn't know that. I would have got that one wrong throwing a test. So, so when you have something like this, when you have a compound equal statement like that, you evaluate the entire expression on the right, and then that's what you multiply points by. All right. So 4 mod 2 is 0. 0. Okay, so if we're combining strings and numbers, what JavaScript will try to figure out what you meant and do that. It's instead of flagging an error like Python would do. So when you're concatenating two strings, you use a plus sign. When you're adding two numbers, use a plus sign. So this here, this is two numbers. One is a number and this is a number. So when the plus sign is going to add. However, this is a string, and you're concatenating a string with a string, and so you end up with a string concatenating with a string. So you end up with 2 concatenated with 3. Now you have something like if one operand is a number and the other is a string, then this is going to be a string. This is going to treat the number like a string, and it's going to concatenate 2 strings. Okay, so this is a string, and even though this is a number, it's going to treat this as a string, and so you end up with this. Okay, now that's for a plus sign. That's when you're using a plus operator. If you're using any other operator, and you end up with something like this, where you have a string, but the string could be a number because of what it is, and you have a multiplication or a division or a subtraction, it's going to just be the arithmetic operator, and it's going to convert the operands to integer or to numbers if it can. You have these other functions called Parseint and Parseint that converts strings into numbers. Like this here will manually convert it into this will force it into a number, regardless of what the other operators are. So here, you got a +5, and it could be something that was read in from a prompt or something. It's going to be a string, and so anyway. Parseint and Parseint are given are given a non-number to parse, it returns not a number, N-A-N, not a number. JavaScript value means not a number. So this, when you try to parse this into an integer, it's going to say not a number. And this function is not a number returns true if the argument is not a number. So if you want to test it, you may want to test something first to see if it's a number before you try to convert it to a number. And so there's a function here to do it. All right, it's 308. Let's keep moving. So this is going to be parse float and parse int. So I think this might be 3.2 and this might be 2. So maybe it's 6.4. Oh, I'm adding. 3.2 plus 2. What am I? Did I multiply it? It's a plus. All right. Anyway, this should be. Oh, what is it? What is not an? Oh, it's going to be not a number. So what's not a number plus 3? I wonder what not a number plus 3 is. I bet it's not a number, or is it just 3? It's not a number. 3 plus not a number is not a number. Okay, this is true, and this is false. True equals 1 and false equals 0. Oh yeah, okay, so this is going to be 1 and this is going to be 0. So is the answer 4? Oh, I'm sorry, it's not 4. 3. This is 1 and this is 0. 2 plus 1 is 3. 2 plus 1 is not 4. Okay, great. All right, arithmetic operators. Write a statement that assigns final value with the multiplication of user num1 and user num2. If user num1 is 6 and user write a statement that assigns start. What? Write a statement that assigns final value with the multiplication of user num1 and num2. Okay. All right, it's 311. Any questions? A drink costs $2, a taco costs $5. Given the number of each, compute the total cost and assign total cost. This is kind of a, I don't know what I'm doing here. Total cost equals drink quantity times 2 plus taco quantity times 3. I did it wrong. 2 drinks, 3 tacos. 2 drinks. 2 drinks and 3 tacos. 2 drinks and 3. What am I doing wrong? Someone want to tell me what I'm doing wrong? 2 times 2 is 4. Taco costs $5. I'm doing something wrong. A taco costs $5. Oh, I got to do it again. It's $5. 15 plus 4 is 19. Okay, anyway, got to pay attention. So you can keep on doing those. Conditionals. This is the same as, well, I don't know. You have to put these braces around the, in Python, you would put if condition and then you'd indent everything that you wanted to be included in the block that's executed if the if condition is true. You have to indent. In JavaScript, you surround the statements with curly braces. So braces are surround a group of good practices to indent statements in braces using a consistent number of spaces. Okay. In JavaScript and in every other language, it's only a suggestion that you indent the statements. But in Python, you have to indent the statements. In Python, there's no other way to indicate that all of these statements are part of a block. There's no other way. Whereas in every other language, you put these curly braces around them. So evaluating statements, yeah, you know. So what is the final value of num items? Bonus is 19. Is 4. Num items is 1 plus 3 is 4. Yes. If then else, there's the else, and then there's if else, if else, using curly braces around if and else blocks. Okay, JavaScript does not require braces around if or else blocks with a single statement. Good practice is always to use braces, which results in more readable code and less susceptible to logic errors. So you notice here, since it's just one statement, you don't need to put curly braces. Okay, there's comparison operators. And these comparison operators are exactly the same as in every other language, except for I don't think Python's got the triple identity. I don't think Python's got these. Is there in Python? Oh, in Python it's is. So it depends on what the meaning of is. JavaScript, okay. So, and the difference is that identity means that the two things you're comparing have to be exactly the same, out of the gate. It can't be any of this fancy, subtle conversions because you think you know what the programmer really meant, but he didn't write it that way. So this, if it's just a double equal sign, okay, this, if it was just a double equal sign, this would be true. But since it's a triple equal sign, it's not really true because this is a string and this is a number. See, so this is false when you're using the triple equal sign. Is there an example here? It's true. So anyway, so you know how all these work. see, this is true because 3 is converted to 3 before the comparison, but this is not true because 3 is a string and this 3 is a number. Okay, now, you know, a common error in all programming languages, this is an error, is to not put the double equal sign when you mean double equal sign. So something like this, you know. Well, the whole problem with JavaScript is this, there's nothing wrong with this statement. Okay, I mean, this is gonna evaluate to something that will be interpreted, which can be interpreted as true or false, which does convert to true or false. So score, since you're, okay, so this is really an assignment statement, right? It's not a test for an equality. It's an assignment statement. It's an action. You're taking the variable score and you're assigning 50 to it, the character string 50 to it. And if ever you're assigning a variable to some value that's not 0 or not empty, as long as you're assigning a variable equal to something, that whole assignment is an expression which will evaluate to true. So this thing actually evaluates to true. Okay, this does two things. It assigns score a value, and it also, you can test the whole dang thing and it's going to be true because what you're assigning is not 0. You're assigning something other than 0. And I'm going to figure out how I can test this. What time is it? It's 3:20. Some of this stuff's been really bugging me. So I'm going to open up a thing here. And I'm going to put this, let's see, script. And I'm going to save this. Save as on the desktop. And do I have an ITS? Here, in here. Whatever. I'm going to do, I'm going to call this test.html. And script is, I'm going to say score equals 2. And I'm going to say alert score. That's just going to, and then I'm going to say end script. And does this work? What happens now? I'm going to save this. And I'm going to bring up my, I'm going to, oh, where is this on the desktop? This. It's around here somewhere. Oh, here it is right here. There it is. Let me open it up. This. Now, what happens if I open it up? I'm going to right click and just, I'm just going to double click on it, see what happens. Ah, page says 2. Great. Fine. Page says 2. What if I refresh? Page says 2. Good. Okay, so that's that. I'm going to say, now I'm going to say, where's that? I'm going to pop this out, put it over here. That way I can put this here, bigger. So I want to do something like this. I'm just going to put this in here. So I'm going to put that in there. And that's a funny if score is equal to 50, then alert, hello, whatever. Okay, so if score equal to, writes out score. If score is equal to 50, write hello. It's not going to write hello. Now I want to alert score again because I did this assignment statement. All I'm going to do is I'm going to see if this assignment statement actually, okay, so is score equal to 50? No, it's not. It's not. No, this is an assignment statement. So this is going to be true. This is going to evaluate to true, and so this is going to execute. This is going to execute, and then this is going to execute. Now, this assigns score equal to the number 2. This displays it out as a string 2. This actually assigns score to the character string 50, and then once that assignment statement has taken place, then this whole thing here evaluates. It's going to return a true to the if, and then so this will execute, and then we're going to drop down here, and then we're going to print out score again, and I want to see if score is going to display out as 2 or if score is going to display out as 50. That's what I want to know. Okay, so I'm going to save this, and I'm going to go back to my thing here, and I'm going to refresh this to hello, because that, and then 50. Aha, so I have determined that this actually does execute as an assignment statement, and after it executes, this thing here evaluates to true, which means that this is going to execute. And that's what we saw. All right, that's interesting. I didn't know about that. Nested statements in the if else if. Okay, so of course you can nest if statements. You can do that in any language. So this sets something. If this is true, it's going to display this on the log. Otherwise, it's going to execute all this part. And what this part is first it displays out something in the log, and then it does another test to see if it's see if that's true. If that's true, it does that. If that's not true, it does that. Okay. I'm curious about else if. Else. Okay, this isn't one way of doing it. Yeah, here we go. Else if. Else if. So this is else space if. Else space if. So that's how you can attach sort of. See, this is the same thing. Else if, else if, else if. Now I'm going to see something. A JavaScript. Is there else if, one word? Note there is no else if, one word keyword in JavaScript. Okay, answers my question. All right, so that's great. Where are we now? It's 326. I'm still in conditional logical operators. Okay, there's the logical operators here, of course, and this is so if you have a boolean, something that evaluates to a true false on the left, something that evaluates to true false on the right, and the two and signs in the middle, ampersand, then it's like the and, just like the Boolean and logical operators. So that's the same. And it also does the same as in other languages, where if this ends up being false and it's anding, then we don't need to evaluate the rest of this. We can actually test that. I'm not going to do it right now. Okay, more conditionals. This is true. Oh, these are here we have a term for it. Truthy and falsy. Truthiness. So truthy is a non-Boolean value that evaluates to true in the Boolean context. Like this is going to evaluate to true in the Boolean context because it's a non-zero value. And non-zero values are truthy. It's not truth, but it's sort of like truth. Falsy, a falsy value is a non-Boolean value that evaluates to false. So this, okay, this is not really false. This is something else. But in the Boolean context, this evaluates to false. Interesting, falsy values. Ternary operator. Okay, this is an interesting. This is an interesting construct. You have a condition, and then you have a question mark. And if the condition evaluates to true, then this is executed. Otherwise, this is executed. So here we have a statement. Oh, well, it's not even doesn't even have to be a statement. It's just, this is the existence. So here we have, we're going to print something out. What are we going to print out? Well, we're either going to print out passing or we're going to print out failing. When do we print out passing? Well, we print out passing when the score is greater than or equal to 60. If the score is not greater than or equal to 60, then it prints out failing. Okay, so here we're trying to decide what the fee is. So the fee is going to be either 10 or 15. Okay, that comes after this now. Okay, so what's before that? Well, this is an expression. This is an expression. This is the condition part, and this is going to be true or false, and this is going to be true or false. So if either one of them is true, it's going to be 10. Otherwise, it's 15. So that's kind of interesting. Oh, there's this switch statement too. This is an interesting statement. You have the word switch. Then you have some expression that evaluates to something. And then you have a list of cases that this expression may evaluate to. So if this expression evaluates to value 1, then it executes these statements. It jumps and executes these statements. Otherwise, if expression evaluates to value 2, it's going to jump and execute these statements here. Okay. Now, it's going to execute these statements. It's going to keep on going down until it hits a break. Oh, the word break. Once it hits the word break, it skips out and goes down to where after the switch statement ends. This is the beginning of the block. This is the end of the block. Okay, so you know, you don't need to put the break in there. You may want to continue executing down through more cases if you want to. That's all. That's however you write your code, and also you can have this default case here where if this expression does not evaluate to any of these other things, then it's going to do the default case. This is in a lot of languages. I don't know if there's a lot like this in Python. Is there a thing? Is there a switch statement in Python? How to implement in some languages it's called a case statement, case or switch. It doesn't look like there is. You have to emulate it by this is C++ code. You go. Switch statement in C++. So how do you do it in Python? Well, it's easy. Well, you just do it. You can do a bunch of it's if elifs. But anyway, this is JavaScript. So here's a case where if the value is 1, 2, 5, 10, 25. This is a saying what it is, a dime or quarter. Okay. Here's an example of where if item is an apple or an orange, you want to do this, and then you're done. If item is milk, you want to do this and this, and then you're done. So if it's milk, you want to do this, and you're going to flow through cheese, and you're going to do this. If it's cheese, you're only going to come to here, and you'll do this dairy. So here we're counting stuff. We're counting fruits, we're counting drinks, we're counting dairy, and we're counting meat. If it's beef, it's gonna fall through and do this. If it's chicken, it's gonna do this. Okay, so see, switch statements can be kind of useful that way. All right, so it's okay. It doesn't look like I'm gonna get to loops. It's the end of the class. So I'll return to this on next week, And if I'm going to try to get through, I'll try to get through the chapter, but everyone's really coming along. Glad you guys are so on top of it. So I may just end up I'll probably just end up having one more class next week. I'll get through as much as I can in that class, but then I will also perhaps have an addendum or keep on going past the hour. You guys can sign off if you want to, just so I can get through some of these labs down here, because some of them look kind of interesting. Some of them look a little difficult. So, are there any questions? Thank you guys for keeping up so well, and thanks for coming. You know, I've got another class where it's like the last 3 times I've held the class, no one's come. So, but anyway, I record the video, and they do watch it afterwards. So, all right. So have a good rest of your week. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Take care. Yeah, you're welcome.